Alright, so now with this next problem here, we're going to be working with a new kind of rational expression which just has a trinomial in the bottom, in the denominator. So it's worked out the exact same way, the same three steps. You're going to still factor out everything as much as you can factor it. You're still going to find your excluded value, and you're still going to simplify thereafter. Just this time we have to factor a trinomial instead of a binomial, which shouldn't be very hard. We've already done entire lessons on that, but let's go ahead and get started with this. So let's look at the numerator here. On the numerator, you have a binomial, 2x minus 2. What can we factor out of that? Well, your greatest common factor that they both have in common is a 2. Now I'm going to go ahead and draw out my parentheses, and then when I divide by 2 on both of these, so divide by 2 there, and divide by 2 there. The 2's are going to cancel out, leaving me with x minus, and then you have 2 over 2 canceling out, so x minus 1. All that's going to be over whatever this comes out to be. So from the last videos, you can tell, you remember, for factoring trinomials, you have to draw out 2 sets of parentheses. And you can do this whatever method you choose to do, whether you simply make a t-chart like this and find what you multiply and add to do this. I like to just simply draw my 2 sets of parentheses. Whatever my very first variable is going to be, I go ahead and put that in the first positions. And then I look and see what my factors are for this number that's in the C position. Remember, this is A, this is B, and this is C. Well, the only factors that are there for 3 are 1 and 3. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in there. Now I'm going to figure out what my signs are going to be. This sign right here tells me if both signs are going to be the same or if they're going to be different. If it's a positive sign, that means they're going to be the same. And this sign tells me what kind of sign they're going to be. So they're both going to be a negative sign. So you can double check your work by saying negative 1 times negative 3 gives me positive 3, and negative 1 plus negative 3 gives me negative 4. So that does work out. So now we've got all this factored. So step number 2 is to, again, find our excluded values. So what I'm simply going to do is take each set of parentheses, like we learned in the last video, and set them equal to 0. And I'm going to skip this and kind of do a shortcut with this. If I set this equal to 0, what is x going to be? So x cannot equal a positive 1, or x cannot equal a positive 3. If you put those numbers into either one of these x's, it's going to give you 0 in the denominator, so x cannot equal either of those numbers. And remember, if you see 2 separate variables in the denominator, that means you're going to have 2 excluded values. So we found our excluded values. Now all I've got to do is cancel things out as much as I possibly can. I'm simplifying at this point. Well, if you see, we've got the same expression in the top and the bottom. You have x minus 1 up here in the numerator and x minus 1 in the denominator, so they will cancel out. So that leaves me with my final answer, which is whatever's left over, 2 over x minus 3. So you can see it really wasn't much harder than working with just binomials. It's just a different kind of factoring is all. So don't be overwhelmed when you see a trinomial that you have to figure out and factor. Now with this problem, it's another problem that has a trinomial in the denominator, but this time we have a coefficient out in front of that entire trinomial. So it makes it a little bit trickier. We can't just do our normal standard factoring. what we have to do is what we call the bottoms up method, and there's a video that we've put up to help you factor those. We call those Big Daddy factoring, and so I've got a video posted, so if you want to go back and watch that video to refresh your memory on how to do that, you can. I'm going to work through this problem though and make it pretty easy on how to do it. But let's just go ahead and start factoring this like we normally would. So the numerator, what can we factor out of both of these terms? We can factor out an 8, because 8 will go into both those numbers. And then I go ahead and draw my two sets of parentheses, and I divide. Let me change colors. Now I divide by whatever I pulled out again, so divide by 8 and divide by 8. Well, 8 over 8 is going to cancel out, so that leaves me with a plus, and then 16 divided by 8 gives me 2. Now all of that is going to be over whatever we get right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and set up my two parentheses, but I have to work this out using the bottoms up method before I can write anything in here. I know I'm going to end up with two sets of parentheses though. So let's come over here and do the bottoms up method to figure this problem out. So we're going to start with step 1, which means we're going to take this number out in front, the coefficient, we're going to multiply it times the number in the back. 2 times 2 gives me 4. When I move it to the back, that leaves me with a squared up front plus 5a plus 4. Now we didn't change that 5a because we didn't do anything to the 5a, so we just bring it down. Now what I've got is a regular trinomial, and we can simply do our normal factoring like we did on the last problem with this. So a is my first term in each set of parentheses, because it's a squared right here at the beginning. And then I've got to look at my factors of 4 to see what, when added together, is going to give me 5. Well, you've got 2 times 2 gives you 4, but 2 plus 2 doesn't give you 5. So let's look at 1 and 4. 1 times 4 gives me 4, 1 plus 4 gives me 5. And since, again, this sign tells you that the signs are going to be the same, this one tells you what they're going to be. So they're both going to be positive. So we have a plus 1 and a plus 4. Now what we have to do is we have to come back and divide by whatever that leading coefficient was at the very beginning of the problem. So it was a 2, so we're going to divide both of these numbers by 2. And this might be kind of a refresh for you guys. It's been a while since we've done these. So once you do this, we're simply going to see which one of these, or if any, will come out to a whole number. Well, if you do a plus 4 divided by 2, 4 divided by 2 is going to give you a whole number. So that one is going to come out to a plus 2 because it goes evenly. And that one's okay. However, 1 divided by 2 will not come out to a whole number. It comes out to a fraction or a decimal. So what you've got to do is what is called the bottoms up method. Take this number that's in the bottom and bring it up in front of the a. Once you do that, you're left with this. It'll be 2a plus 1. All we did was we moved that 2 up in front of the a, and that left us with whatever was here. So 2a plus 1. And now this is the complete factor of this right here. So I'm going to now write that up here, 2a plus 1, and then a plus 2. Now, that was all step 1. We have just now completely factored this problem. So now we have to go back and look and see what our excluded values are. So let's take a look here. We have to set both of these equal to 0. And again, the shortcut for this one, if it's just a variable plus a number, just give me the opposite of that number. So in this case, a cannot equal negative 2. Because if you put a negative 2 right here, it's going to be negative 2 plus 2 equals 0. And then 0 times anything is going to make the entire denominator 0. So negative 2 won't work. But we have another variable over here, and if you remember from the previous video, there's a shortcut to this as well. Take the sign and change it so it's positive right now, so we're going to make it negative. Take the number beside the sign and write it down again, divided by whatever number is out front, 2. And if you don't remember how to do that, you can just take each set of these parentheses and set them equal to 0, and that's going to give you both of these answers. So here are your excluded values. That's going to be part of your answer. The last step that we've got to do now So we've done step 1, we've done step 2. Now all we have to do is simplify this as much as possible. That's step 3. If you look real quickly here, you see a plus 2 in the numerator cancels out with a plus 2 in the denominator. So that leaves me with the final answer of 8 over 2a plus 1. And that is your final answer combined with your excluded values. And the last problem I'm going to work on this lesson deals with what's called a difference of squares. And that is dealing with this numerator right here. You see we have y squared minus 16. This is a special type of binomial that actually has a really fun shortcut that we can use to just take care of this and not really have to do very much math or very much factoring at all. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my division symbol and then draw out two sets of parentheses here. And you might be thinking to yourself, why are you drawing out two sets of parentheses when there's only two numbers here? We normally only do the two sets of parentheses if there is a trinomial. Well, this one is a special type. Again, it's called a difference of squares. If you look closely, you see you have y squared in the front, and then you have 16 in the back, and it's separated by a minus sign. Well, both of these numbers are perfect squares. If you take the square root of y squared, you get y. So I'm going to put that in the first position on both of these parentheses. Now if you take the square root of the second number here, 16, you get a 4. So I'm going to put that in both of these. And now, this only works, by the way, if it is separated by a minus sign, and this one is. If it's separated by a minus, you can do a minus here and a plus sign here. Or you could do the plus and the minus, whichever way you want to do it, it's still going to come out to the exact same thing. And if you want to double check to make sure that this works, you could FOIL this out or use box method to figure this out. And what would happen is the middle terms, where you normally have the, like down here you have this middle term of -8, up here in the top, the middle term is going to cancel out and be 0. That's why there is no middle term. So this is a special one. You just got to be able to look for these and notice these things. Now, let's go down here and factor this next one. This is just a real quick, easy factoring of a trinomial. So we have y in the first position because we have y squared over here. So each one of these gets a y. And then we have 16. So I'm going to try 4 and 4 again. Now the signs tell me, this sign tells me that the signs are going to be the same. This sign tells me what they're going to be. So they're both going to be minus. And again, you can go back and FOIL this out and double check. -4 times -4 gives you positive 16. -4 plus -4 gives you -8. And so that will work out. Now we've got everything factored out. Let's figure out what our excluded values are going to be. So we would set each of these parentheses in the denominator only. We would set each of them equal to 0. And you notice that they're the exact same thing. So we don't have to do it twice. We only have to do it once if they're both identical. So y minus 4 equals 0. That means that y cannot equal positive 4. Because if you plugged a 4 in here, 4 minus 4 gives you 0, which will in turn make the entire denominator 0. So that's our excluded value. Now let's go back up here. I'll put my final answer in red. We need to start canceling some stuff out and simplify things. So we have, looks like y minus 4 on top and y minus 4 on the bottom, so they will cancel out. That leaves me with this. Y plus 4 over y minus 4. And so this, with your excluded value, is your final answer.